Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and it's time for another edition of No Capes, where I talk about comic books that don't have to do with superheroes, and either Ethan doesn't read them or he doesn't review them with me. So first we're going to talk about Comeback #1. Image Comics. Really dig this cover. I picked it up initially, ordered it because the cover and the premise of it sounded interesting. It's about a group of guys or a company that's in the business of hopping back in time and snatching somebody away from some disaster that was going to happen and saving them for their loved ones. So you're in the book, got these two characters who work for the some secret corporation that gets paid tons of money, obviously, because they have the ability to time travel. They're time traveling back and snatching people up and bringing them to the future, basically, to avoid car crashes, to avoid houses being burnt down and dying in them, whatever the case may be. This first issue starts out with some guys showing up to a guy's door, acting like they're working for the power company to test some stuff. They basically jump the guy, knock him out, throw him in a van, and drive him off to time jump him to the future. In the process of time jumping him to the future, they get to the future. The guy's freaking out because, of course, he doesn't know what's going on. He feels like he's being kidnapped. They don't really explain a lot to him. Tell him, hey, your family, explain to him. And after they time jump, the guy's head explodes. He has a tumor, and that tumor doesn't react well to the time jump, and he dies horrifically. They comment on the fact that, gee, the family should have told us about the tumor and all this different stuff. They're setting up to save this other guy's wife, who got into a single car accident, ran into like a power pole or a tree with her car and died. They're getting ready to jump to help him. This corporation does stuff on the sly. It's pretty obvious. They're pretty quiet. The corporate head office is suspicious that one of the two guys in this two-man team is having issues. They question the other partner about it. That partner then questions his partner. He wonders, what's going on. The guy says he's going to quit. This is the last jump he's going to do, and then he's quitting and whatnot. And towards the end of this, we find out that there's somebody who's been following them and has snatched up this guy that they unsuccessfully snatched once before. I had the brain tumor. They're going to snatch him again, and it looks like at the end of it that they're going to make a different decision with him. It's a different guy, a different decision. This is an interesting comic. It's got a sci-fi bent to it. That's the reason why I picked it up. The art is not fabulous. It is okay. I know there are some people who are tearing the art apart. It's very independent kind of art. I don't know. I think the problem is I think the colors more than the actual drawings in ink. It's like the coloring was an afterthought. And so it doesn't look fabulous, but it suffices to tell the story. I'll definitely be picking up the next issue at least because I'm curious about the story. The idea intrigues me of having this, secret corporation that's snatching people up for loved ones and trying to circumvent disasters that happens in their lives and whatnot. So, not a bad comic. It's somewhat interesting. Okay, next we're going to talk about Revival #5. Holy crap. You've been reading this book, this issue, some of the stuff definitely hits the fan. First off, freaking awesome cover. That cover is just freakier than hell. Some crazy stuff happens in this. We get some quasi-answers, more questions of course, but we get some answers to some stuff. Some of the stuff starts to tie together. We even have some action scenes in this. We have a crazy snowmobile chase scene that ends in a fiery crash. This girl is absolutely bonkers. Her relationship, her being a revivalist, her relationship with death seems very, very strange. She gets a real kick out of it, it seems, her being, smashed up and mutilated and being able to come back from it. We got this underlying plot of people she's had relationships in the past with a school professor. They're not sure exactly where that's going. Her older sister, the policeman, obviously has figured out that there's something going on. That's pretty interesting also. I'm curious to see where that's going to head to. I still want to know, big question for me, how did she die? No one seems to be asking that. You would think that the sister would be pursuing it harder. Or maybe that's what she's doing with the phone list. She has a cell phone list that has a whole bunch of calls between her and the college professor, who obviously has a new girl that he's sleeping with. But obviously he's still enraptured by her, I believe, because at the end of the book he's writing a poem. He wakes up from trying to have sex with this girl, and obviously he's not very successful. He sits down to do some writing. He starts writing. It's this piece of poetry, and it ends describing this person as being, black, freckles, white skin, basically the negative opposite of the night sky. Well, we know she's got freckles. I'm suspicious that he's still thinking of her and describing her, and she's hanging around outside of his house at the end of the book. Excellent book. Just some really cool, crazy stuff going on in it. Really, really enjoying the heck out of this. As far as the No Cape books, this is one of my favorite ones that's out right now. Just really enjoy it. The art is just the perfect tone for it. Not overly complex, but not so simplistic that it loses a good, rich flavor to it. Okay. And lastly, for this time, I'm going to talk about Lot 13, number 2. This is a straight up horror show, horror comic. It's got undead in it, undead ghosts, spirits that are terrorizing this family, basically. We get another ghost player in this, actually two. One, her backstory is explained as to how she's dead and why she's kind of where she's at. Another, we don't know what she's about at all. We see a brief flash of her as she kisses the father of this family. As she kind of kisses and passes through him, he gets a brief exposure to what her death scene is, as she's basically being gutted by a guy with a sword or something like that, or a really large knife. And she might be helpful in the fact she says, you better find your son, because the son's lost in this house after being confronted by an undead ghost spirit of one of these people that was killed back in the 16th century. So there's this family of malicious, vicious 16th century family. And the father figure of that 16th century family is hooked up with an undead woman from the, I would say, 20s or 30s, who's dead and living in this building also that they're staying in. They've lost the son. Craziness is ensuing as both mom and dad both see these spirits. They've all got bullet holes or blasts to their head. Their heads are carved out and whatnot. And then it ends with a really, really crazy scene at the very, very end. They do find the son at the very end. Actually, the son finds them, and it's pretty horrific when the son finds them. You think something bad's happened to him. Obviously, something bad's happened to him, but he's not dead. That kind of bad. Art, I still think, is really excellent. The disembodied voice who reads these books with me, she's actually just finished number 1. She brought up a really interesting point. She goes, hey, you know what? I don't know if I like the art. I think the art's great, by the way. Because it reminded her of Mad Magazine. I'm like, Mad Magazine, what are you talking about? It doesn't look like Spy versus Spy or something like that. But I guess there's an artist in Mad Magazine, and I cannot remember a life of me what his name is. But it's this guy, this Glenn Fabray, his favorite artist, his most influential artist. He actually mimics a lot of the stuff from the old Mad Magazine, and I guess he's done some work in Mad Magazine. The stuff that looks more realistic, more actual, serious, solid art, not goofy cartoon art. And then we'll have like Alfred E. Newman's face splotched in with the stuff and whatnot. But I guess he's done some of that stuff. So I guess kudos to the disembodied voice. recognizing the art style and being able to attribute it to another comic and whatnot, or art type magazine. I wouldn't do that because I really have never been a Mad Magazine fan. I very rarely ever read the book. I read the occasional Spy versus Spy stuff, and I would take my friends' books that when they had them and at least fold the thing in the back to look at it. But otherwise, I don't know a lot about Mad Magazine. But like I said, kudos to the Disembodied Voice for being able to recognize that art style and attach it to something else. I'm proud that the Disembodied Voice has read enough books and whatnot to start associating art styles and stuff. That's pretty cool. But anyway, if you like horror books, scary kind of ghosts, who the hell knows what can happen, poltergeist kind of stuff, this is a book for you. Steve Niles writes great horror stuff, and certainly this is one of them. I'm enjoying it. I'm interested to see what happens next. I mean, it's not traveling way off of a beaten path that we haven't heard or seen before. There is a rape scene in this. Maybe the rape scene's longer than what it needed to be, but I think part of it was they play the lyrics to a song, and the lyrics to the song are important to the story. And so to get all those lyrics out, they had to show some scenes, so maybe that's why that scene goes on longer. So some people might be sensitive to that if you're reading this book. You may not enjoy that. Not that I enjoyed it, but it added to the story as a whole and gives us a background on one of the undead characters that ends up being in this. But, for being what it is, for being a straight up horror, kind of not gore, but there is gore, shocking horror movie kind of a type of book, this is definitely would be right up your alley. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, good fun. I originally thought this was supposed to be a Vertigo imprint, and now it's just listed as DC Entertainment. So, don't know if that was originally the case or not. I'll have to look that up, since we've all been talking about Vertigo books a lot lately and what's going on with them and everything. Anyway, that's it for this time. Just going to do 3 at a time if I can. Try and crank these things out as I read them, and hopefully get to ones that are a little fresher. I think these are a little closer to fresher as far as how long they've been out there and people have already been talking about them. But that's my No Capes for this time. What are you guys reading, No Capes wise? Because I really like the No Cape books. Anyway, have a good one, everybody.